Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Beyond the Grid. I'm your host, Swaroop George and I have two very special guests today. First, I'm joined by Rabia Kamal, who is an industry advisor at Microsoft. Rabia, I think, works right under the intersection of technology, data, and then have that industry lens coming in with a lot of work in the energy and utilities and other energy resources space. She helps organization make sense of AI, cloud, digital transformation in very real, practical ways. My second guest is Mike Rossi, who's a senior vice president at Neudesic, an IBM company, and one of, I think, Microsoft's most recognized partners globally. With a recent award, Global Energy Partner Award. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Mike actually leads a large scale digital and AI driven transformations. He works hands on with the utilities to turn strategy into actual execution. So I'm hoping together they both can give us a rare inside view from platform strategy to boots on the ground delivery and how AI and data is actually showing up in energy and utilities world today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anything you want to say before we start?
Excited to be
No,
here.
Excellent.
excited and thank you to you for bringing this type of content to the world because this industry it's much needed, and I think what you do is awesome. So thank you for.
Thank you. All right, let's start with the first question. So you both sit sort of at the intersection of technology, industry, transformation, but from slightly different angles. One from a service provider perspective, another from a product and capabilities perspective. What pulled you into this space? How did you start? Maybe Rabi, you can start, and then we'll go to Mike.
Yeah, for sure. So my background actually is in data science. So for the first 7, 8 years of my career, I spent in data analytics and then as a data scientist, specifically on the customer service, customer operations side. So that's where I really learned about the world of data and AI, and how important it is and what kind of decisions we can make using that. And then when I joined Microsoft, very early on, I started working with a lot of our energy customers in the space. So oil and gas, utilities, and mining. That's how we define it. And then over the course of the last 5.5 years, I started getting pulled into the energy space more and more, where Microsoft decided on investing arms dedicated to different industries: manufacturing, energy and resources, teleco, pharma, and I kind of fell in the umbrella of energy and resources. And so, like you said, that's how I got pulled into it. My own excitement as well, my own passion as well. It's a really exciting time to be in this space with, AI growth, data center growth, everything that's happening, the energy transition that we are all talking about. So it was also my passion, and that's what let me into this role. And I've been in this specific role as an industry energy advisor for almost 2.5 years now.
Excellent. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, stories a lot of the same, but a little bit of a difference. I mean, from our perspective as a service provider, IBM Neudesic. I mean, we've been in the ecosystem now for 25 years, really delivering on outcome based, what we think is meaningful architectures that deploy and uplift the operator and the human to be better at their work. And I think that started many, many, many years ago. And it was very different than it is today when we first started on this journey, because back in the day, energy was sort of, and in many ways today is still seen as a laggard compared to other industries. However, they had some serious changes in the availability and volumes of data that suddenly were surfacing. And one of the most pivotal moments was AMI. And I think at that moment, as we started evolving ourselves out of an application development business more into a data and AI focused business, we saw a unique opportunity to help organizations, especially with critical utilities, start to leverage that data. And it was really starting at the ground floor because many were on-prem and didn't really have meaningful solutions. And many folks within the organization were on an analytical basis to find and make use of data. So I think sort of by happenstance, we found this unique opportunity within energy, and that's been the last 15 years, and we've started to see this thing accelerate quite quick. Funny story. I mean, we used to go to these conferences many, many years ago, and I remember when we would talk about cloud for the first time, and it was almost like you said a bad word, like inside these conferences. Like, what do you mean? Like, we can't put stuff on the cloud. Like, we're regulated, and we're and now it's the normal. And so I think we're going through a very good example of an evolution that maybe we saw 10 years ago. cloud infrastructure in this new AI revolution. And it's going to take people, process, and technologies all working together. It's going to take public sector, private sector. It's going to take great product companies like Microsoft and great services companies like IBM to pull this off. And I think that's what excites us most about this industry now. Of course, where we are today, it's very interesting because of the demand pressures that we have, right, on the grid and the amount of focus that's on this, whether it's political or just by our local utilities to meet the demand curves. And so I think it's a unique opportunity. I'm excited. We're sitting right in the middle of data and AI. And I think
Awesome.
it's not only the thing that's causing some of the challenges, but it's also the thing that's going to get us through some of the challenges. So we're excited for that.
Yeah, I was chuckling a little bit when you said about, hey, what do you mean by cloud? We are a regulator, right? I still hear those conversations, believe it or not, mostly in the OT space, right? I just had a conversation early this week where it was exactly this framing. Like, we can't talk about cloud; it's OT and it's controlled. So we'll touch more on that later. But how did you land in the Microsoft ecosystem, Mike? You talked a little bit about cloud and cloud. You could go multiple ways, right? But
Yeah.
why does deep integration? What's this passion, love towards Microsoft?
For sure. Neudesic was born as a Microsoft pure play consulting firm. Many of our founders came from Microsoft. So the originations and the roots are very deep there. And the evolution to which Microsoft is putting out great product. I mean, even today, we used to see updates pushed, monthly. Now we're seeing them almost every morning, right? I mean, the pace of which innovation is moving. I mean, even Rabia probably on her side is like waking up to try to figure out what happened last night that I need to talk to my clients about, right? Because it's the pace that we're just blown away by. But this has been our focus for the last 25 years as an organization. And within the IBM ecosystem, our charter really is to focus on driving that Microsoft services business. So I think it aligns from the evolution of day one to where we are today in the organization is really to stay sharp and true to our partnership with the Microsoft team and making sure we're bringing great solutions on Azure services to our joint client base. And the focus makes it fun. It makes it repeatable. It makes it exciting. It allows us to stay very focused on what our task is.
I'll just
Awesome.
add to that.
Yeah, please.
We've been in the room I've been in the room several times with Mike's team and Neudesic, and it's really an extension of Microsoft. It's everyone speaking the same language. For the customer, they don't know the difference, like who's from, what part of the organization, because, the way we're rapidly growing and learning about all the different platforms and technology that we're deploying every day. I found that a lot of the technical resources from Neudesic side were equally knowledgeable on all of that as well. So it has truly been a great partnership.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I just heard this morning in Canada, and there was a Canada call. IBM, obviously with Neudesic, is one of the fastest growing partners for Microsoft in Canada. And I'm pretty sure it's probably similar in the US as well. Yeah, great stories. Let's get to problem solving right away. Rabia, what is the biggest challenge, one big challenge that you consistently hear from this industry these days?
There's a few. I was just talking to one of my utility customers today. Obviously, there's reliability with all the snowstorms, climate changes, everything that's happening. That's a big one. Affordability is definitely a second one. Can the customers afford the bills that, they're getting on a monthly basis? But the one that, a lot of my customers, or a lot of the utilities I'm talking to, that has been a big challenge is customer service or customer experience nowadays. A lot of the CSAT scores that are coming out for a lot of these utilities are not the best, to put it in the best way forward. So they're really struggling there. I feel, in a good way, a lot of the utilities are comparing their customer service experience to the likes of Amazon or telecos, where everything is so automated. So
Natural.
we have utilities coming and saying, can everything be automated, where they don't have to talk to an agent, a real person agent, and everything can just be directed through an automated agent. And so which is a good comparison, to be honest. So customer service, customer experience, how do you automate those workflows? How do you bring agentic AI and take some of those heavy lifting queries that the customers have, answer it for them, rather than customers waiting on the phone, being frustrated, not getting to the right person, taking hours talking about bills. A lot of them are billing questions, queries that can easily be answered by agents, as an example. So there's a lot of opportunity in this industry, but also, in turn, improving the customer experience. In fact, a lot of the assistants or customer service VPs, it's on their scorecard. The CSAT scores or the customer experience score is a part of their measurement and metric as well. So it's all the way till that level. So that's a challenge. And I know Mike is and Neudesic is doing a lot of work in that space as well. But because I was just talking to a customer today and that was his number one priority for the rest of the year, I thought it would be the most relevant one to bring up today.
Yeah. And customer demographic is changing too, right? You're not
Yeah.
in the 90s, 2000s anymore. The classic example that I hear is, hey, in 2000s, you might have said to your kids, don't call a stranger on your phone, don't get into a stranger's car. And now what do we do literally now? You take your phone, contact a stranger, get into a stranger's car. We call it Uber, right? So the customer preferences, demography, how they interact with everything is changing. And if utilities cannot catch up with that, you're going to be left behind. You're not serving 50 plus population anymore. You're serving the young, the guy who just took an apartment, entered an apartment, like the guy just buying his first house and all of that. So that change needs to be accommodated. Mike, over to you. Anything to add compared to what Rabia said?
Everything Rabia said is spot on. I would add, we are seeing, in the new world of stress that is on the utilities today. I mean, we're seeing a lot of challenges with meeting the moment on this demand growth. I mean, you guys hear about the data centers, nearshoring, the different things that are impacting that, and just general changes, as to your point, in population and how people use and interact with the grid today. Some of the things and investments we made around renewables have worked to certain extents. A lot of that hasn't come on the way that we thought it was going to come on, and so we're finding alternative ways, like with the new discussions around nuclear and the fire up of 3 Mile Isle and all of these amazing things to support what could become a very significant crisis. And so to that end, I think everything Rabia said around concerns around grid reliability and the customer experience are true. And we've invested a lot in coming up with solutions that help accelerate AI backed type of initiatives, infuse these into these types of parts of the organization, just to make sure that we're looking at opportunity to uplift the operator and make a better experience along the way. But I would add safety as one that I think we see a lot of opportunity. And we do have quite a significant play around field assist solutions. So a CIO would call us, or someone in charge of a work management program, and they would say things like, we spend a lot of time in things like tailgate inspections, or we spend a lot of time in post-job documentation, or it takes me a long time to get alignment up to speed, trained well, because there's so much documentation, there's so much training. So now that we live in this digital first world where we have all these devices, where can AI intersect with this to provide the right field manuals, the right troubleshooting, the right call to action for that person, the ability to maybe fire off an agent and go check an inventory or do something? And the answer is yes, right? We can do all of these things today, but it's a very human centric experience. And the human centricity piece of this is really about not only uplifting and augmenting that work over automating that work. That's not really where we are today, but it's about creating situational awareness and alerts along the way when safety might be at risk. And so we're seeing massive improvements there. The other thing I would say that we're seeing massive improvements in is regulatory and compliance. We have a rate case accelerator that's helping modernize the various parts of the rate case. So everything from white paper creation to testimony creation to intervener response, getting everything back to the regulatory and compliance team in a way that is more complete, broader in scope, better quality, more consistent, is actually amounting to pretty significant gains in rate case submissions and outcomes for those rate cases. And we see that not just in rate cases, but we see it in other compliance documentation. We've infused it into some NERC SIP type scenarios, as well as site permitting. So we're working together with Microsoft to bring a lot of acceleration into these massive documents that take a lot of time and are significant barriers to getting us to get proper generation set up to meet the need. So those are a couple things I'd add there.
Got you. Just to double click on that a little bit, you talked about safety, very relevant, and talked about this regulatory process and the ability to ingest documents, summarize some, create net new, etc. Isn't there a big opportunity for voice copilots as well in the field? Because you climbed up a pole and you want to look up a manual to see what do I do here. There is a lot of interaction that is possible. You don't need to be hands-free and flipping through a tablet. Are you starting to see your day's experience with or experiment with that a little bit more?
I can
Yeah,
take
please.
that as well. Yes, definitely. The answer, Swaroop, is yes. The field workers who have lots of things in their hands, right? For them, probably typing is not the most convenient thing. They have papers and they have devices and they have a lot of things. And so, yes, we are using Copilot or voiceover kind of technologies to actually for them to just input the work they did. This is the order. This is the time. This is what we
Exactly.
completed. This is how we fixed it. Transcribes all of that and puts it into their whatever their system of record is. And so we are seeing a lot of that. We're also seeing it with executives, to be honest, field workers, but even like these, the CEO and the management level, we did
Yeah.
launch a Copilot voice feature where our executives in the morning on their devices are like, can you just give me a summary of what meetings I have today? And it
That's an
gives
excellent
them a
point.
whole
Yeah.
summary. And so rather than type, because these are folks that are on the go, constantly traveling, meetings, whatnot. So we are seeing a high adoption of that technology as well.
Great. Where do you see the biggest sort of disconnect is between what technology can do and the readiness for business to adopt it? I mean, there is some areas where business is fine. Okay, the classic example is that executive copilot to plan their day, right? But where do you see the struggle in some cases when it comes to business readiness?
So for me, it is actually very simple on this. The technology is there, the potential is there, the business is ready, everyone's excited. The disconnect that I am seeing are on two fronts. Mike, I would love your feedback as well and see what you're seeing. For me, it's twofold. It's one, budget. Yes, there is. They're ready. Everyone's ready. Everyone's like, let's go. But who's funding it? Where is that budget coming from? And as we see within the utility sector, budgets are getting more and more constrained because at the end of the day, the taxpayers are the ones who are paying for it. So where do we get the budget for to do something transformational from a technology perspective? So I'm seeing that kind of conversation becoming a bottleneck in a lot of these things. The second one is resources. Most of the times, we are willing to bring in our resources. We're excited, but there needs to be ownership from our clients and customer side as well. And these are folks who are already overburdened with their own day-to-day tasks and jobs, everything. Taking on a new, as an example, AI initiative is in many ways a stretch project for them. For me, those two, and it's a very simple answer, but that's the first thing I usually run into: budget and who's going to be resourcing it. And usually because of these two issues, everything keeps getting pushed out.
It's sort of a classic chicken and egg problem too, right? Like,
Yeah.
invest in AI, you get your time freed up to do other productive, high value things. Invest in AI, you your cycles are shorter and faster and you're saving money, but there is an upfront investment that's needed, right? And that's what the struggle is. Mike, anything you want to add?
I think it follows the same hype cycle stuff that we always see, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get mode where everybody's like, got to do it. Like I hear about it everywhere. And board of directors are, folks from Silicon Valley, and they're like, what are you doing with AI? And then that pressure gets pushed down and everyone's like, all right, let's go create some chatbots or some agents. And we're going to create 50 agents by the end of the year. And the answer is, for what? Like, what are we doing? Like what
Yeah.
that discussion around value, we talk about budget, and I think budgets can be unlocked if value can be established, but value is subjective. I can't bring you a value discussion and rinse and repeat that. I can give you guidance on KPIs and expected ROI, things like that, but it really depends on your organization, your willingness to lean in and drive human adoption of these programs. And so our best efforts are where we can match strategy with great technology architectures that support the organization and get the user champions in the room on day one, really helping to prioritize goals and outcomes and features that might be best to go and drive that adoption within their groups. And when we don't see that, we see a lot of technology being built and we don't see it being built at enterprise scale. We sort of seeing built for a couple of users. Now we get into situations where hundreds of people have created an agent for one thing. Now you get into how is that all going to be organized, and Microsoft's done a tremendous job as it just released Agent 365. It's really about orchestration and making sure that, we understand what these things are and what they're doing and what decisions they're making. So there is technology to help simplify that, but it's a very human-centric conversation around this new frontier energy firm that we're establishing together. And I say that because the frontier energy firm is going to be the one leading at the edge and is going to be using digital to augment human, right? So the future is going to be one where we may not have any desk chairs in our meetings. And humans are going to have to learn to work with digital and train digital the same way as we train interns and new employees, right? So part of it is the understanding, or maybe even lack thereof, around how to bring this type of technology to the organization and what expectations should have. And I think that sort of leads to a serious challenge with value definition that can be aligned from the top down in the organization. When that's achieved, we see budgets flow. And that seems to be a secret unlocking mechanism in organizations. I just see that a lot out there. And I think that's an important feature to make sure that the users and the strategy complement or even drive the technology build out before the first wrench is even turned, so to speak.
I think the challenge is also getting to scale, right? Like because that's where value becomes more crucial. You can launch 100 pilots, 50K each. That's fine, right? But to scale, value needs to be defined, because that needs a lot more fundamentally different investment. What are you seeing? If I were to rewind about a year ago, everybody in every boardroom was talking about AI. What is this new thing? Like, I want to understand more. What can we do with it? Etc. 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 Everybody was eager to jump in. And if I were to take at the world stage, I think last year's Davos World Economic Forum was all about a lot of AI. This year was completely different, right? There was no AI talk because there were other overburdening problems going on. We won't get into that, trade and other things. Is that reflected in boardroom conversations today too? Or are they still wanting to move forward, struggling to move forward, struggling to scale, etc.?
I could say from my perspective, I think we're at day one of what AI is really going to offer an organization.
Yeah.
Those that are leaning in and really investing are starting to see, even past the year or two that we just spent trying to understand what to do with it, they're starting to see outcomes from it. I mean, we have very tangible product, like very good results from energy and utility companies around the country that have demonstrated their ability to achieve productivity gains, increase the reliability of their systems, build safer programs for their employees, increase customer satisfaction, all by using these types of tools. And so I do think the diffusion of AI is very early. It's very nascent in its design, and I don't think it's slowing down. My conversations with the C-suites still have very utility focused HPIs or high priority initiatives that they want to accomplish, but they are very focused on working with their teams in R&D and other scenarios to ensure that technology is a core component of the strategy going forward. And I don't think it's because we want to carve off 5% of Rabia's week and say, what else can we do with her? I think that the goal here is to say, we've got a tremendous amount of work coming, and we're running into serious challenges with workforce numbers and folks that want to work in a utility setting. I often hear clients talk about, how do we create a destination for innovation where people that are new out of school want to come and find it to be innovative and interesting to work in a utility setting. And I think a lot of changes have happened over the last 5 years that have made that somewhat true. But the reality of it is we're not going to have enough workers. So the question is not how can I give Rabia 5% back, but how can I allow Rabia to use digital intelligence along with her own intelligence to be able to do 200% of the work she has today. And that's the future we have. It's looking through the windshield at what's coming versus the ROI analysis of where we can shape productivity. I see those conversations evolving, and they're just really starting to take off and become embedded in every conversation. In fact, I can think of at least 2 CEO level organizations that have AI embedded into every meeting. This is a person that reports directly to the CEO, because I don't want to go talk to my IT department necessarily about what we could do. I want someone sitting here and telling me, based on the outcomes of that meeting, here's how AI applies. And that is a significant change from where we were just a year ago.
Anything to add, Rabia?
Yeah, quite a bit as well. So just agreeing with exactly everything that Mike said. But my perspective is talking to all the utilities and the energy sector. Everyone's at a different stage in their own journey, right? For some, and I'll be frank, they couldn't care less. They're doing their day-to-day operations. It's all running well. I have an energy customer who's like, we are doing really well. Our earnings and our profit and everything, we understand how AI can add more value. And then we have other customers who are saying, and it's all the way from the CEO and board of directors where AI needs to be embedded within their organization and they want to do proof of concepts and they want to do more with it. So there are varying levels of interest that I'm seeing from the different utilities and boardroom conversations. But yes, it is still a very much of an active topic of discussion for a lot of these executives. And the ones that are doing it well, I do have a energy customer and I am very impressed by their level of maturity in this. For a lot of the utilities, let's do AI and they'll do one-off POCs in different areas. They don't really have an intake process. Every business unit is submitting 10 to 15 AI use cases. They're not well documented. They're not mapped to KPIs. They're not mapped to outcomes. They'll pick one or two and then they'll get stuck, leave it, and that's it, right? I'm seeing that some of that happen as well, but then I'm seeing utilities where there is a center of excellence dedicated for just AI.
Yeah.
That team's initiatives that they have an operating model in place for the AI use cases intake. They build out an architecture that's repeatable for other AI use cases as well. And it needs to be mapped directly to the business outcomes. Is it generating revenue, reducing cost? What is it doing? And those are the areas or organizations where I'm seeing a lot of success. And those are the KPIs and metrics they have to go back to the boardroom and kind of report on, right? Productivity is really good, but then are we saving? Are we increasing revenue through some of these use cases? So I think there's a bit of mixed emotions across the board for all the. I also have a customer, and they want the whole executive leadership team trained on Copilot. So they're willing to take out 2 hours, which is a lot of time for a president and the whole,
Absolutely.
leadership, and they want us to show up and train the whole team on Copilot. I'm seeing that level of executive engagement as well. So it's exciting, but it's at varying levels, I would say.
What is the one thing that if you were to tell to one of your clients, you don't need to name the client, please stop doing this, right? And pivot. Is there something?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
I can.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can say that. I think it's very relatable to exactly what I said before. One thing that they should stop is these one-off use cases or AI use cases.
100%. Yeah.
He's experimenting with one-off, no business
Throwing
value.
stuff at the wall and see what sticks, right?
Hoping something sticks, and it's not sticking. A lot of these projects, I think I was reading a stat today from one of the reports that out of around, if 88% of AI use cases are in POC, only 5% are going into production. Like there's a massive, massive gap in that. Stop there. Other thing I would say is they're not really understanding the data foundation and what they have in place.
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
AI is as good as the data you have. At Microsoft, we often say garbage in, garbage out. So stop at let's do these 10 use cases in AI, but are you really assessing the underlying data, the foundation you have? Do you have a governance model in place? Do you have compliance in place? I think that's where we're not looking deeper into the trenches, and we're just keeping it very high level. So that's where I'll say stop, pause, reflect, and then move on with a better strategy.
Mike, anything to add?
I spot on and agree wholeheartedly. I would just add, I think I touched on it a minute ago, but stop assigning the outcomes of AI to purely technical parts of your organization in hopes that what they build have the features really going to drive the needle for the user. The human component of AI and the misconceptions we have around complete automation, and maybe I don't need to do this task anymore. I mean, some of those things exist, but 99% of what we're doing today and will be doing for the next foreseeable future here is that augmentation role. And you can't augment someone's job if you don't have full context, right? Of how they do their work, what the journey map is to get from beginning to end. and most importantly, how they would interact with the system, right? And what types of features they would need to do their job more productively. And so I think if we don't do that correctly, we end up with a lot of POCs with perceived low value due to low adoption or shelfware, right? And that becomes very expensive, and optics at the executive level say, wow, we're failing quite a bit here. And I think the reality of it is it needs to be a connected ecosystem. Like to really get to the value, it needs to stay connected.
Great. I just want to double click on the data foundations data, having the right data for the AI to be productive and effective. What is Microsoft doing in the overall data foundation space to improve or to address that problem in a way?
I mean, we're investing when it comes to data. We're definitely investing a lot. I think we do have there's a lot of other products that we work with as well within the data space, but I think we have one of the most robust data platforms out there. We have Fabric, and that it has a lot of capabilities that are specifically relevant to the utility sector as well. There is now real-time intelligence
Yeah.
abilities that we are feeding into our platform that a lot of the utilities are making use of, given the real-time data that's coming in. So we're definitely investing a lot of our own resources into having this very robust, strong, unified data foundation in place. I think we've been in this space for several years, and I do think we are one of the leaders in this space as well. So a lot on the data front, but I think a lot of effort is also going into compliance and the security of it all as well.
Yeah.
The way Satya thinks within our organization is security first. So everything we do, every product we build, every engagement we have with our customer has to have security compliance in mind. So with that data foundation, the foundation of the data foundation is really security for us. I would say there's a lot that we're doing in this space.
Awesome. And Mike, what are we doing to drive that home for our clients? In the sense that, like, the Microsoft has a lot of capabilities, is investment coming in platforms. How are we bringing those all together for our clients?
So a couple of things. One is we couldn't do what we do without the foundation that Microsoft gives us. To Rabia's point, what they've invested. I mean, I think I heard a stat at one point that if you strip away all the AI talk and data talk and all the things that Microsoft does, I think they're the largest cybersecurity firm in the world, like tracking something like 6
Yeah.
trillion threats every single day. So they're good at every aspect of this, right? And the reality of it is simplicity from the data source. And I know they've invested heavily into specific energy resource managers that connect really important data from whether it's subsurface data or even SCADA or Pi or the things that we have to make easy connections to semantic layers, to visualize this, to run AI agents against this. I mean, it's the platform in its entirety that makes it so simple for us to go out and execute. Now, how we bring that to market is through the lens of the use case. So we'll typically say things like the problem we're trying to solve is X or Y, and a lot of them take work and asset management, for example. We're trying to get reliability improvements in this particular area. We'll work with that outcome in mind, and we'll work our way backwards to understand where some of the challenges are. Sometimes it's data connectivity. Microsoft offers a lot of options there. Sometimes it's data quality, again, with Purview and MDM and all of the different solutions that are built into that. We can start looking at quality and governance at a way that we've never seen it before. When we start looking at the data analytics side of it, obviously Power BI is massively impactful to so many users out there. So we have a great platform, and I think when we can marry that to the outcome that we have and architect something that's well done, most organizations are adopting it because of the sophistication, and they're also understanding the evolution of where they need to go with data governance and data quality in order to get these AI outcomes, and the platform provides the tools to do that. So we can help them through those processes, and we can help them build, ontologies and different things that breathe life into their models. The other interesting thing that's Microsoft's doing, I think is brilliant, is sort of this open platform model. Like, bring your model. I don't care, Grok or whatever you got, like, bring it to us and use this as the underlying platform. And I think that's very significant for where organizations are going to want to build their foundation with Microsoft to get to these valued outcomes that we help our clients get to. but do it in a way that's very flexible. And if a model supersedes another model any given day, the ability to switch that out and utilize that is critically important. So those are some of the ways that we're maximizing, I think, what Microsoft puts out there and how we partner together to really get to those valued outcomes.
Yeah. So how do we enforce governance in such situations, right? I'll give you a specific example. You said Grok, and I was chuckling because Grok is known to give, for example, very crude responses, right? Not necessarily enterprise responses. And if somebody were to bring in models like that, how do you govern that and make sure that it's consistent with your enterprise philosophy and what is appropriate for the enterprise?
Yeah, Robbie, you want to start on that one?
For me, the way we've been tackling it with our customers, obviously, I guess when you open our model library, there's over 1,000 models that are sitting there. I think now there's also a capability for the platform to suggest what model would be the better fit for that specific
Particular use case. Okay.
So that I think it's some of the governance things, but we say one thing and we say it every single time, which is when it comes to governance, human in the loop is extremely important. And so when a lot of these use cases or responses that are being generated, we have to proofread it. We have to make sure that it complies with our enterprise policies, as you mentioned. And so when we're working with our customers and we're working with clients and we're doing demos or we're doing proof of concepts, we're constantly working with them to train the model in such a way that first it adheres to their policy, but also the output that's being generated is being vetted by the human in review. And so those are some of the ways I know there's a lot more from a capability and a tooling perspective that we provide from a governance level. Sort of like I know now as an example, ChatGPT, there's a few questions you cannot ask, and it'll say, I'm not equipped to answer that question. Well, I know technology is evolving very rapidly, and the whole aspect of responsible AI and governance is also keeping up with it. But we are seeing a lot of those things being embedded in these tools as well as technology accelerates. So I know even from our side, we're constantly working on data governance, AI governance, responses. What does it say? What is it hallucinating? How do you prevent it from hallucinating? But at the end of the day, everything we say, even when our Copilot answers are generated, it says it's an AI answer, check for accuracy. And so it's giving a disclaimer all the time as well. So those are some of the things I would say. Yeah.
It's like the motto for a whole new world. It's going to be like a bumper sticker, creating this whole new world that we live in, like check for accuracy, right? And it's kind of funny you brought that up. I agree, and I think there are some triggers too that are being built into great software like Agent 365, and be able to look at the orchestration of agents and understand what they're doing and when they're acting within thresholds defined by the organization and when they're acting outside of those thresholds and need to be reined in. And I think that there's great system readiness signals that are being built in for users to better understand what's happening and when things might be off track.
Great. Yeah. So just to put a pin on this, what I'm hearing based on the past 30 minutes or so conversation is for companies trying to adopt and scale, think about value, think about KPIs first, think about data and whether you have the right data, fix the foundational problems. And there's plenty of help available, right? Through platform capabilities, etc. And I would also say get a good consultant that can help you through that process, a good strategic partner. One of the things you normally hear is, oh, AI is here, consultants will be jobless. And every time I hear that, I'm like, come on, it cannot be that, right? Because you still need that human intelligent mechanism to help you wade through these rough waters. Is that the summary of what we're hearing? If there is an advice to give to CIOs and CEOs?
I think we're spot on, Swaroop. As you were saying it, I thought of an example recently with a customer, and that's exactly how everyone's kind of jumping at it, but this energy customer is proceeding with caution. But what I loved about it was first we did an envisioning exercise on AI use cases with business leaders in the room. In this case, it was supply chain. But what we did was we mapped every single use case to KPIs, but also the financial modeling value that use case would bring. Once we did that, then we chose one use case, then we ensured there was data readiness, foundational readiness, the data was available, we had that architecture mapping done, and then we started building that model out, and it was done in a matter of a few weeks. And because the business was involved in it from day one till the execution day, they were in it. it wasn't IT leading this whole project in isolation. It was IT plus business in collaboration. So I think one advice or one thing that I would say to executives is, if you are embarking on this journey, it is not an isolated experience. It has to be done in collaboration with the end stakeholders and business stakeholders. You need their buy-in, because a lot of times we'll build out these agents or use cases, we give it to business, no one's using it. And I have
Yeah.
examples of that as well.
Yeah.
Our use cases are sitting, no one's using, it's dead. So there's certain way to proceed with caution, but make sure it's successful. Yeah. No, so that's, I think what you said, spot on. And that's an example that literally came to my mind where we saw AI success in this organization.
Thanks for that. I was wondering about an example, but great way to wrap that topic up. Mike, anything to add? I have something to
I would say
jump
from a
into now.
consulting lens, Swaroop, like just looking at it from my perspective and what I see out there, I do think that there is an advantage. You mentioned like get a good partner. We've obviously forged a fantastic partnership with Microsoft. We're very trusted as a unit out there as we go do our joint work. What I would say though is that a partner like Neudesic IBM is one in a position to have look across an entire portfolio. We have the advantage here of working in a ecosystem of utilities that don't compete with one another, that are willing to share and show up and give best practices. And when you take the summary of a lot of great results that are happening, whether it's generation, transmission, distribution, or something else, and you can repeat that, you can transfer that to the next one. That's an accelerator. That's an opportunity to move quicker and faster and not make similar mistakes to maybe what the last person might have done. So we are getting incrementally better and we are able to transfer that knowledge, and there is a lot of repeatability in these systems. So I just all that to say is I agree with you. I think the partnership helps things move fast. And I do think that this will depend on the interoperability of different folks working together. I mentioned partnership early on in this call, and I'll reinforce that I think it's going to be public and private. We're already starting to see these large AI companies already investing in their own power systems. How is that going to work with the regulated systems we have today?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think today the best thing we can do is open this thing up and provide sharing. And so some of the things that we do on our end with Microsoft is we created some AI collaborative styles. So we do it for nuclear, we do it for utilities, and we have different flavors of this. But the idea is that folks get together and we do some ideation design thinking about how to solve problems, and we present to one another, and we go home with network and ideas on how to implement. So part of what I think is great and maybe why we have great partnership is like we invest in facilitating, I think, the learning platform for so many to come together and share those practices. And so something that we're definitely proud of and we think that more people should take advantage of.
Awesome. So shifting gears a little bit, Neudesic was named the 2025 Microsoft Global Partner of the Year for Energy and Resources. So huge congrats, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah.
What do you think? What did you think was the differentiator that got you that place, the special place in Microsoft's eyes?
I think it's a lot of things, and I'm always interested in Microsoft's perspective on this too, because they go through the process of looking at tons of nominations and have to come up with something. So to be named Global Partner of the Year is pretty special, and I think our team is exceptionally proud. I serve as the face of it, but I'm certainly not the person responsible for this. We've got a lot of really smart, hardworking people that work tirelessly with our clients to get to the outcomes that we have. And I don't think it's just a particular outcome. I don't think it's one. I think it's the body of work. So in partnership with Microsoft, when we look at how we want to move from an organization that is out there trying to find work to ways that we can work together to multiply our effort. I mean, we align around a couple of simple strategies. One is that we know and align to the things that Microsoft believes are true for the pillars that they have set forward for their industries. And so when Microsoft tells us things like we want to help organizations operate for the future or be more proactive in their asset intelligence for reliability, we can use these as North Stars, and they guide our thinking and they guide our investments and they guide our innovations. And so I at Neudesic have created what's called the GTM ecosystem. And the GTM ecosystem is actually something that collectively our clients benefit from, and we do as well, because we're able to streamline the process of what structural challenges we're seeing within the industry and where technology can play a key role. and make sure that our narratives meet the triggers, like that they're recognizable by the C-suite organization. And so when we create these things and we invest in the go-to-markets, these are the repeatable things that Rabia and her entire set of peers across the entire industry advisor community and all the field people at Microsoft can take our assets and say, because we know this thing is true and it worked well for, XYZ corporation, you should look at this. And we've come to the table many, many times and help guide some of that strategy and roadmap. And so what I think is the answer to your question is that it's a lot of those parts. It's the go-to-market ecosystem we've created. It's the predictability that we've created with each other and how we're going to show up and help guide clients to the right outcomes. And I think that value is actually what ended up getting us the top spot. But Robbie, maybe you have a thought or two on maybe what tipped the scales. I don't know for
Yeah,
certain.
it'd be interesting to know why is Neudesic special.
I mean, for me, there's one big reason, and that is the industry depth and knowledge that the Neudesic team brings, and that really, that is that is their biggest advantage point compared to a lot of the other partners that we work with, right? Especially Microsoft and a lot of our services partners that we call them, we were kind of siloed in the IT side of the house, is what we call it internally at Microsoft, IT side of the house. That's where Microsoft talks. But now slowly, even from Microsoft, we're opening doors to the business, your generation, your T&D, your asset, your supply chain. And as we started embarking on, in those areas of the business, the partner that we found to come alongside us was Neudesic, because they could speak the language. When these folks come on the call and talk to VP generation, they understand challenges, they understand the lay of the land, and they can speak their language, which is what truly differentiates Neudesic from a lot of other partners that we have. So I keep telling this to Mike, I keep telling this to the rest of the team. It is the industry depth and knowledge that his team brings to the table. As soon as a utility person hears someone is talking their language and in their language, and they understand their challenges, it's an instant connection rather than us speaking our own IT lingo and they're like, there's
Very
no.
true.
So
Very true.
that has been a big one. And the last thing that Mike kind of talked about, the accelerators is what we're calling them, whether it's field assist or whether it's customer service or permitting or rate case. These are real business problems. And again, we've been collaborating with Neudesic on a lot of these. And so I think those are a few elements that have really truly differentiated them as a partner, and specifically for me.
Great. Do you think that there are things that some consulting companies sometimes overpromise?
Mike,
I
you
know it's
want
a
to
tough question.
I mean, I don't have any strong data points to
Yeah.
say one way or another. And certainly like when we go into accounts, I mean, our goal is to always and often it's to coexist with a lot of our peers and brethren out there. So I don't necessarily think that there's a specific case that I can represent, but I do think that there is a challenge connected to some of the things that we talk about in terms of accelerators and the lack of some of the understandings of how these work. They could be perceived as products, and in some cases they could be oversold very easily. So defining what the definition of custom versus SaaS and all of that is really critical as part of the sales process to understand what value they're getting compared to the next best thing. And I think that what we offer has extreme value because we can deploy it immediately into their Azure tenant. It's got their security, their guardrails. There's no new licensing other than what Microsoft's already put on the table for them. This is tremendous because they have control. And I think that's a unique position to be in when you talk about your data and your AI models and all of that, that it's not leaving your premise, going somewhere and coming back with some answer that you can't necessarily know all the details around, right? So that's some of the SaaS world we're in. And we're also seeing SaaS licensing increase pretty significantly. It's hard to plan for this, right? And when you're in your capital planning motions, it's like I have 10 different licenses and all of them went up 20% this year. Like, and I'm kind of stuck. Like all my data's in here and all of my analysis is done through this. So I think this gives you a lot of flexibility to even then change out services as Microsoft continues to evolve their ecosystem. So are there things that are overpromised out there? Absolutely. I mean, we see stuff and hear stuff all the time, but I think a lot of times it's also just not full, complete understanding. And that's where we get an opportunity to look at and help guide the conversation.
Makes sense. All right, let's try and wrap it up with a little more lighter note. If we were to have a prediction in the next 5 years, at the end of 5 years, where will the industry be?
I mean, 5 years, I would say more like 5, 10 years. And this is the vision that we have at Microsoft as well. It would be centered around agentic AI. I think last year we saw agents kind of helping you with small things like summarization, research, and all of those things that, we do on a regular basis or just finding information. But I think over the next 5, 10 years, we'll see a rapid development in agentic AI with autonomous workflows where these agents are taking decisions on your behalf and making things for you. So removing mundane tasks. We're seeing that happen already, but not at that. I mean, there's a level of trust as well that comes with it. So I think in the next 5, 10 years, and that's why I'm saying 10 years, we'll see a lot of these agents that will be doing work autonomously as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mike?
I generally agree, and for the reason of like we're already starting to see a significant cost of doing nothing on this front. In some cases, it's really apparent. Like we cannot control wildfires in the state of California unless we start using proper drone technology, image recognition, AI capabilities, you name it. Like it's required at this point. And so we're starting to see some great partnerships, like even just this week announced with PG&E and some large organizations to fight this head on, right? I mean, we don't have a choice. We're burning down communities. So I think the cost of doing nothing is getting very high, and I think that's weighing on a lot of folks. So I think the evolution will start to continue to accelerate once these AI foundations and governance and capabilities and centers of excellence are all more mature in their establishments. So I think that's true on that front. I think we're also going to see a whole new energy mix that's going to come from potentially outside of the grid that we know today. And that's going to be terribly interesting to start to see how microgrids will be formed and what's going to power them and who's going to own them. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of investments going to start flowing that direction at a global scale, right? But just to make sure that this crisis that we're heading towards, which it really is. I mean, we just don't have a way out of it unless we make some significant changes. And it'll be interesting to see how those changes are taken by the private industry, right? And really where the investment in R&D and the next generation transmission distribution will come from. So those are some of the trends that I think we'll start to see. And I think you'll start to see a lot of investment there.
Spot on. Spot on. All right. Before we wrap up, any last words, anything that you want the listeners to as a key takeaway? Anything you want to say?
I would just say it's an exciting time, but obviously be cautious as well and have the right governance or compliance pieces in place. But it is exciting as well. Like I often challenge executives that I'm working with to not be afraid to take risks as well and learn from your peers as well. A lot of them are doing this work in this space. And thankfully, utilities, they don't compete with each other in most of the areas. So learn from them as well. So just be excited, be curious, and be willing to take risks.
Awesome.
That's the only thing I'll say.
Yep.
Mike?
I would just add if there's any concern that maybe this is a fad or a trend and maybe it'll disappear, I think we would all in this call generally disagree. This is going to be exponential. It's going to be impactful to levels that we've never seen. It's going to change the lives of our children and our children's children, and things will never be exactly the same. So the reality of it is we have to embrace it, right? And I think there's a lot of opportunity that comes from what Rabia was pointing out, doing it in a very strategic, thoughtful, governed way, of course, but don't not get started. Like you have to get into the technology and really start pushing some of these use cases through to get to the outcomes, but do it in a way that meets the goals and objectives and the high priorities of your organization and see if you can move directionally to some outcomes that we can all really get excited about and avoid kind of the sprinkle effect where we just kind of spread out the ideas and we start tinkering with different bots and we can't really connect the dots. So I think there's a big challenge there, and I think there's a lot of strategy that's going to have to go into making this successful. So don't underinvest in that either. Call in a partner, or certainly bring in somebody that has that skill set to help guide those discussions and make sure that everything that we're doing and investing in aligns to that true North Star for the organization.
Great. Awesome. All right. With that, I think we are at the end of our time. Thank you both. It was a very good, enlightening conversation. I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Swaroop.
right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.